Hey guys, sorry about the recording issues earlier. I actually forgot to just tell Ableton to send the audio to Zoom, so it was not the best. But it's actually worked out well because I think I can explain warping a little bit quicker the second time around. So yeah, in terms of where you need to be by now, you probably want to have downloaded Ableton and download 3 songs you like. If you're watching the recording at your own pace, you can also follow what I'm doing on the screen with your own songs, all right? Before we start today, because we're going to talk about time and how we, mark time a little bit, I wanted to share this quote that I've learned that I've heard that really helps me, I think, understand what musicians are doing. And it's art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate time. We're going to break that down a little bit today and refer back to this quote a couple of times. Bit of deep, bit of depth to start the class. Okay, so first let's talk a little bit about music theory. Before we do that, I had one pro tip that I wanted to share with you. In Ableton, if on your keyboard you just hold Shift and question mark, so like these two, Shift question mark, it toggles on and off. Look at the bottom left side of my screen. It actually toggles on and off that help section, so you can hover over anything and you get tips. It's a pretty handy thing. I still keep it on because I'm still learning. Cool. So let's talk about music theory. If you've done a little bit of music, you might have heard this term before, time signature, the most common one being 4/4. This is not a full-on music class. All you got to know is this means that there are 4 beats in a bar. In other words, if you've ever heard a musician count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4, so always looping back after the 4, you're in this time signature. So different songs are written in different time signatures. Most songs that we know of that are, in clubs or you're making is most probably going to be in 4/4. And why this is important is just because we're going to dive into this part of Ableton a little bit today. So 4/4 over here is the time signature, and this number over here is the tempo, also known in more electronic music as the BPM, the beats per minute. While we're here, just so you know, there are other time signatures as well, like 3/4, where it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like the Game of Thrones soundtrack. And there's some other ones as well. But for now, just know that your time signature is 4/4, which means you're going to count 4 beats in a bar. So already we're starting to break down time instead of seconds into bars, getting into that how musicians decorate time. And now that you know that there's 4 beats make a bar, this part of Ableton will make a lot more sense. By the way, I hope you like my new red circle cursor. Let me know if it's easy enough. The big one was giving me some dramas. So each number over here signifies a different bar. Okay, so that means that's the first bar of music, the second bar of music. Down here is seconds. We don't look at seconds as much. It's just a good reference of how long is your track or mix or project, but musicians count in bars, okay? And if you zoom in, you'll see that each bar is broken up into 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So they're the main beats in the bar. And now to add to that, this over here is a metronome. So if I enable this and I click play, you will literally just hear the metronome signal when you've passed each bar. And notice that at the end of the bar, when it loops back on the 1 again, it makes a slightly different sound to let you know you're in the next bar. So okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is what it's counting. Yeah, in the metronome, you can also, right now it's on auto, which means it's counting every quarter beat, right? So every time it passes one of these major nodes, you can also set it so it counts a little bit deeper than that, every 1/8 note. So instead of 1/4, 1/8. So yeah, that's just like counting a little bit faster, but it's the same BPM. And that's important because, if we're decorating time, we can decorate time by taking a bar, splitting it in half, you get 1.2. Split it in half further, you get your quarter notes, what we're playing now. Okay, and then you can always split it more and more in half and get even finer. So that's what it means when it says 1/8, 1/16. This is just finding the symmetries in the bar by breaking it down a little bit more granular. okay? You can also change the sound of the metronome if you don't like it. I like wood. There's also this classic one. Okay, cool. So that's a little bit about the metronome and the BPM. And the time signature, basically, you don't touch, all right? So metronome will mark time for you. And then along with the metronome is a really cool other part of Ableton, which is the grid. You can already see the grid in front of you. So a really cool shortcut to know is Command 1 and Command 2. So Command 1 will actually increase the resolution of the grid, which means even finer, and Command 2 will reduce the resolution, okay? So that there's less on the screen. And if you look in the bottom right, you can always see what resolution you're in. So 1/4 means you're only going to see quarter notes. 1/8 means you're going to see 1/8 notes. This is handy when you're learning keyboard shortcuts later, especially if you learn how to make a beat and stuff. That's really good to know the grid and the size that you're in. Cool. Now that you know how beats and bars work, you basically know that, there's 4 beats in a bar. It can be, and so if what if you were to place a kick drum on every beat in that bar? You get your standard house kick drum sound. Okay. What if you were to continue that kick drum and then add a snare on every second beat? And it loops perfectly as well. So you may start to realize that these are the elements of like dance music. What I want you to notice while I go through these is where the snare is landing. So as you can see over here, it's just a kick. It's just that one line. It's on every quarter note. Over here, the snares are lining up with the 0.2, 0.4. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. Then in the next bar, what if in between 6 and 6.2, if I place something on the 6.1.3, aka in between 6 and 6.1.6.2, so then it sounds like this. It's just getting more and more familiar. What if I stretch it even further in between this and that hi-hat, which is 10.1.3, if I play something there? Okay, so all sounding pretty familiar. These are the elements of dance music. It's just taking the one bar, splitting it up into 4, and putting your main elements on the grid. And that's how you decorate time. That's only one way to decorate time. Let's take a completely different genre, hip hop. Hip hop is more around the 90 BPM. So we're going to actually change our project BPM over here to 90 and hit play. Okay, so let's analyze that. Again, snares on every second beat. And the kick cycle through. The kick is on the 1 and on the 2 and a little bit in between. And then all I'm doing is on every 1/8 note, I'm placing these hi-hats. Okay, so this is not a drum making class. We're not going to go into how to make this. I just want you to notice time and start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. With a metronome. So these tracks are perfectly in sync with the metronome, okay? That is not the case when you import a new audio track. You actually have to sync it to the grid, and that's the process of warping, what we're going to talk about today. So I thought giving you that perfect example would be a good way to start. So before we get into warping, I just want to quickly touch on the difference between the two kinds of tracks, audio tracks and MIDI tracks. I know we briefly went through this in the last class, but I thought of a better way to explain it. So firstly, to add an audio track, the shortcut is Command T. So whether you're in the arrangement view or in the session view, and you just hit Tab to switch between arrangement and session, Command T. Okay, that's it. Command T will add an audio track. Now, what is an audio track? The analogy that I came up with is think of audio as a DJ. All right. So the DJ is like, give me a track. You have to give it pre-existing audio. You can tell it what track to play. You can tell it when to start, when to end, when to loop that track. But because it's a DJ, it also needs to sync it to the current track that's playing. That's the process of warping that we're going to talk about in a second. What about MIDI, which is the other kind of track? So how do you make a MIDI track? Command Shift T. You'll immediately see it looks a little bit different to the audio track if there's no instrument loaded. It has a signal meter rather than a mixer, right? So even over here, see, Command Shift T makes a MIDI track, Command T makes an audio track. Look at the difference, okay? Things that we'll dive into a little bit later. But what is a MIDI track? Think of MIDI as a futuristic conductor, okay? So MIDI is this amazing Daft Punk-like conductor in the middle who's like, I can do anything. You tell me what notes to play, like musical notes called MIDI notes. You tell me when to play them. So on the 1, on the 2, in between, whenever. You tell me how hard to play them. So it's a velocity. You know, you can play it softly, play it loudly. And you tell me what instrument to play it through. Do you want those same notes going through a bass guitar or a piano or a viola? I'll do it. And you don't even have to warp tracks on MIDI. So they both serve different purposes and they come together really well, but it's just good to know those differences. For now, if you've not noticed, this class is about warping and song structure. So we are mainly just going to deal with audio, which is the thing that requires warping, as I said over here, right? Not dealing with MIDI in this class, but I'll keep peppering in this little knowledge. So when we do get to MIDI tracks, it's not completely alien. So why do we warp? Warp is just Ableton's word for sync. In the DJ world, they say beat match. In Logic Pro, if you've been using another software, they call it time shift. It's all the same thing. What it means is you're able to take a track and then work out what was like whenever a producer makes a track, they make it on a beat grid with certain beats per minute. The beat starts somewhere and it follows that grid with electronically produced music, which is actually a lot more music than you might realize nowadays. So our job then, if we want to sample a part of that or use it in a DJ set or mash it up or remix it or whatever, like step one is you want to take that track and you want to figure out what that BPM was that it was made in and recreate that grid so that you can easily slice, dice, etc. So yeah, it's the purpose is you can work with the audio on a musical grid, just like the one in any MIDI clip, okay? And that allows you to transition, sample, etc. The other thing that is really cool about it is normally in physics, like let's say vinyl, like you take a track, you play it, there's a needle and you play it faster, the pitch goes up. It's just physics. If a car drives by you and then a faster car drives by, it sounds higher in pitch. It's just physics. But warping in Ableton and any other software allows you to change the speed of the track without affecting the pitch. Alternatively, it even allows you to change the pitch of the track without affecting the speed. So you can make something sound chipmunk, but you can still keep it at the same BPM that it was made at, the same speed it was made at, which is really cool. Then the other need, probably not one you're going to do right now because it can be a little bit tedious. But if you ever want to learn or if you ever have an old rock song you really want to put into a DJ set or something, warping allows you, complex warping allows you to time shift human error to make them stick back to a grid. So what I mean by that is that let's say there's a song and there's a human drummer. That human drummer is going to be a little bit off, a little bit here, a little bit there. So warping actually allows you to take those little bit here and put them exactly on the grid. So then you can mash it up with another track, add a MIDI drum beat behind it, do whatever. You know, the world is yours. So that's really cool, but a bit time consuming. With warped tracks, you can also make use of quantized effects. I'm going to show you an example of that in a second. So just hang on to that thought. And the other one, this is like for people like Amina listening in, is if you're into field recordings and stuff, and there's ever a rhythmic element in whatever you install, in whatever you're recording, that doesn't have to be someone playing the drum. It can be as simple as footsteps. It can be as simple as in Australia, when we cross the road, it makes this sound. I love that sound. I love recording it and syncing it to what I'm working on. So warping allows you to take not just our DJ tracks, but field recordings or Shazad, if you're listening in, or look at guitar recordings. And if you play them a little bit off, no worries, warp it, okay? So in this class, we're just gonna go with some very simple warping. First, we're gonna see / here what an unwarped track looks like. So what I mean by that is, I'm just gonna, you know, I've already done it here, but I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna literally go into my like file explorer and pull a track into Ableton. I'll turn warp off, okay? And I'm actually just gonna Yeah, just play it over here. Drag it. So to drag it, you just click and hold and hit tab, and then it drags it into arrangement. So warp is off, and I'm going to play the track. Cool. You can hear the track. Now, when it's not warped, warp is off, it literally just means play the track as it is. Don't fuck with it at all. And you probably are thinking, well, that's what you want. No, you want to warp it, okay? Because here's the thing. Remember that metronome I showed you earlier? If I play the metronome over the track, we want it to sync up with the grid of Ableton. So is it currently in sync? It's not. So if it's in sync, then when a major change happens, like the beat comes in, the metronome should signal it at the right time as well. So yeah, the metronome is all over the place. Okay. Now, for any of you that are a little bit quick, you might have already noticed it's because this is at 90 BPM and this is probably not at 90 BPM. Okay. We don't know what BPM it is yet. That's warping is one of the things that we'll do to figure it out. Now, there is a simple way to warp. And I didn't show you this in the class because I thought it'd be good to learn the hard way as well, but I'll show you the simple way and the hard way. The simple way is you just click warp, say yes, okay? It'll automatically find the first beat over there, right click, warp from here straight. That's it, it's warped. Okay. You'll hear that the track's been slowed down, but it's now in sync with the metronome. Now over here, the segment BPM, it says 106. That's the BPM of the track. I just go in here and I type 106 and it's in sync. That's it, I've warped the track. So I know if anyone tuned in the class, I showed you this whole long way. I thought it might be good to show you the longer way as well, but you know what? This way is most of the time just as good. If this way doesn't work, then let me show you the longer way, which is good to know, all right? But at the end of the day, they both get you to the same place. How do you know when you've had success when you've warped? It's when you can go forward in the track and the metronome still sounds like it's on point. A good way to check it, as I said earlier, is go to a new section. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're good, sounding good. Let's go ahead even further. Cool, awesome. Let's warp another one just for practice's sake, all right? There we go. And dragging it in, okay? So again, warp will naturally well, that's because I warped this track before. Yeah, so let's click warp now. It'll, yeah, so if I play it from here, okay, so it's off. You hear that? Because it's found the first beat, but I need to right click it and say warp from here straight. There are other options. Don't worry about what they are. For most songs, electronically produced songs, you want warp from here straight. Now let's hear it. Cool. It's warped, it's in sync. But this is at 127 and we're currently at 106. So this is just the project BPM. It doesn't matter. You can just easily change it, 127. Now it'll sound. Okay, so now the track is warped. So now that it's warped, it's really cool because you can immediately take it and put it behind another one. And I don't know how this is going to sound. It might be too busy, but it's in sync. Okay, so suddenly it opens up so many possibilities for transitions, for all sorts of stuff. The other thing it allows you to do is because there's a grid, you can actually see when changes happen and name different sections accordingly. And that's the homework that we'll get to in a second. Cool. So that's warping the slightly easier way. If that doesn't work for any reason, there is a slightly longer way, okay? Which I've given the instructions over here. So let's do one this longer way, just so you know what I mean. I think it's good practice to know this way as well. It's not too different. So let's take another track. Reach me. One. So the first one, the first option I showed you will fail if Ableton failed to pick the first beat correctly. In this second method, we pick the first beat with our ears. So we just find the one and we just tell it to warp from there. That's it. So let's follow the instructions in these over here. And these instructions are from my class in BeatLab LA. So just so you know, like the difference in where I'm getting the info from. The first one is the shortcut Bangalore method, and the second one is the LA longer but like proper method. Okay, so drag a song into arrangement or into session view. So you can even drag it into here. Doesn't matter. Okay. Same thing. And then it says, double click on the audio clip to bring up the clip view. So that means if you're seeing this, you just got to double click here and then you'll see this. Perfect. Turn off the warp. Warp is already off. It would have been lit up if it's on, no problem. Click on the launch button to play the clip. You can then use the space bar to start or stop the project. So this, what I just did was a hard stop. It just stops anything that was playing before. I'm just now going to press play on the clip. I'm going to turn off that metronome. It's driving me mad. And playing. And now with my space bar, I can trigger the start or stop of the project. It's just that right now my start marker is all the way back here, which is why you're hearing nothing. If I bring it here, all I'm doing is space bar. Okay, cool. So that's that done. Move the start marker to the first downbeat where you hear drums. So this is the part that earlier was automated, which now I'm just doing manually. So what this means is find the one, any first beat. This song, luckily, starts with a beat. So the first beat should generally be the one. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Such a sexy beat too. So what I'm going to do is take the start marker. It says move the start marker to the first downbeat. Now, you can say, yeah, it's on the downbeat. No, what you want to do is you want to grab it to where the beat starts. And it's good practice to try and get it where it crosses the 0. So you see this little line going over here? You want to try and get it to where it crosses the 0. Perfect. Now, this part is optional, but like my teacher from LA showed me this and I thought it was a good tactic, all right? It's good rhythm practice for you to be able to tap out a BPM. And it also allows you to learn what does 120 BPM feel like? What does 100 BPM feel like? So this part of the song is just for you to estimate the BPM of this song. It doesn't actually impact the warping or accuracy of warping. It's just so that when you do warp it, it will play it back to you at a speed close to the speed that it was produced in. So it doesn't sound too slow or too fast like those other ones did initially, right? Now you probably already know that, hey, the BPM's right here, it's 110. The aim of this method is if Ableton gets it wrong, that number is inaccurate, so you're using your ear, okay? So let's play it and tap out the BPM. To tap out the BPM, you see tap over here, just click it, and then you can see the BPM change. So I'm gonna just press play, space bar, and then just tap a few times for like a few bars, and then I should get average around a close number. If this segment BPM is right, it should be around that number. So let's just do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. I think that's enough. You can see I'm close to 110. So what I'm going to do is now that I've set my project BPM at around a similar speed that this track should be, remember, it's still not warped. No matter what this number says over here, this speed is not going to change until warp comes on. Warp means respect the project BPM. Without warp means it's a track floating in space. It doesn't matter what the project BPM is. Okay, so it's still not warped. So to warp it, right click on the start marker and choose one of these two options. Warp from here for acoustic produced songs, warp from here straight for electronic produced songs. As I said, we're most of the time just going to use warp from here straight. Okay, acoustic songs are a whole other ball game, which I don't want to delve into in this class. It's a bit too complex. But if you really want to know how to take an old Pink Floyd track and put it on a grid, hit me up and I'll do a little one-to-one for you. And then you can spend hours. So right click on the start marker is what it says, and choose warp from here straight. Right click, warp from here straight. Sweet. That's it. I've warped it. You know you've warped it when warp comes on. Earlier, I'm going to just do Command Z to undo. That's all I'm doing. Command Z. Earlier was showing seconds at the bottom. As soon as you warp it, Command Shift Z to redo. Command Shift Z. The seconds go away and the beats come up on the top, which is cool. So, okay, let me just keep following the instructions. Round the segment BPM to the nearest whole number. So if there's a segment BPM, which is here, and it's showing a decimal point, you can round that to a whole number because no producer is, exporting a song in 110.34. People are doing it in whole numbers, okay? Change the warp mode to Complex Pro. This is really important, actually. It's something I forgot. Even in the easy method, you need to change your warp method to Complex Pro. We won't get into what the different types of warp modes are right now. Just know that Complex Pro allows you to do that thing where you can increase the pitch and not change the BPM, or change the BPM and not affect the pitch. It's really good at handling complex warping, okay? So change the warp mode to Complex Pro and then hit the save button at the sample box. So if you hit save, then the next time you bring this track in, you don't have to warp it again. It's already saved. Before I hit save, I just want to hear it and make sure it's okay. So if I play it, there's a few ways I can check that the warp is okay. One way is I know when the first bar ends. There's 4 beats in a bar, and that's when the second bar should start. I can see the grid here, right? So 1, 4, 1, perfect. Did you see that? The second bar comes in exactly at the start of that. Okay. Another way I can check is I can put on the metronome and make sure that the beats line up with the click. We're in business. Sweet. Happy days. And now that we've warped it, I'm going to hit save. Good practice is also to check later on in the track. Sounds generally okay. Okay. Now, this one is not too off, but in some tracks, you can see that over here, it starts to fall a little bit. So if it does start to fall, each peak will actually have this transient marker here. You can grab that transient marker. So I'm just clicking and holding on my mouse and nudge it to where it's meant to be and double click. And that staples it in place, right? So then it brings, what it did is it also brought back all the waveform before and after this. It nudges that back and forth, okay, to wherever you want it to be. So if you ever have any tracks where you're like, you warped it, but just at the end, it's starting to go off, that's how you correct it. Okay. With this one, it was too subtle. I wouldn't usually do that. I'm just showing it to you for example's sake. You'll know when it's falling off. It'll start to sound like the click and then the beat are not really related or just a little bit off. Sweet. Saved. All done. And I've also shown you how to correct a warp, which is what I was saying. Double click a transient, that marker, and double click. Cool. So that's how you warp tracks the shorter way and then the longer way, which I just showed you. So just do the shorter way generally, and then do the longer way. If Ableton doesn't find the first beat properly, then you can do the longer way. Okay. Warping acoustic tracks, a little bit more complex. Won't get into it for now. Just focus on this. So now let's get into a little bit about what this enables. Because it's now tracks, your tracks are now warped, all right? What you can do is you can actually, I'm just going to delete this. So Command A, delete, nothing fancy. I'm going to take a track that I've warped. Let's take this, Crazy P, Never Gonna Reach Me. Crazy P stands for Crazy Penis. Fun facts. Play it in arrangement. Cool. And now, you know what? Let's save ourselves some time and go to a project where I've already taken 3 tracks, warped them and dropped them in an arrangement, just so you can see it. That was this chiller disco remix, but it still follows the rules of music. It's just that these are a bit more obvious, okay? Just for example's sake. So let's take this song. So I did the same exercise that I asked you. Download 3 songs you like and put things here. This is a song I've loved for many years, but to break it down, I was so surprised to see how simple it is. It's at the end of 8 bars. In the nighttime, yeah, it's not singing. When the word is so I put a locator there, intro, put another locator for verse. And we built up castles in the skies and in the sand. Bridge. Cool. So that's what I want you to do. I just want you to go ahead and put down markers at different parts of the song. You're probably wondering, how do I know what's a verse, what's a bridge, what's a chorus? We'll get to that in a second, because I'm actually going to give you these words and definitions for what they are in the notes, so you can like use them to follow on. In more electronic music, you know, it's a bit different: intro, breakdown, build up, drop, but you'll get the idea. So what I want you to do after that, though, is after you've gone ahead and put all of these down and you have a session that looks like this, looks complex, but it's really not after you've warped it, right? What I want you to do is open up a text file and literally just make, I don't care how like amateur this looks, name the song, name the part, intro, how many bars, okay, so 8 bars, and then just, this is the critical listening part, what's in it? I just want you to analyze what's in it. I mean, over here I would call them pitch toms, but I know the term for them. You could just say drums. Let's keep it simple, drums, okay? And then what's introduced here? In the nighttime, when the world is at its rest. Verse. So firstly, verse, how many bars? To find out, bridge is at 25, verse is 9. 25 minus 9, 16. Not a coincidence. As I said, these numbers will always come up. 8, 16, 32. Okay, so verse is 16 bars. Now what's in the verse? That's not, well, that's, you know, not in the intro. In the nighttime. So firstly, still has those same drums. They didn't stop. And then, of course, the dude singing. In the nighttime. And lastly, can you hear that little high synth on the top? So let's just call it a high synth. Now, when you write this, you don't have to be very technical. You don't have to say it's a kick or a snare or a crash. Unless you know those terms, great, add them in. If you don't know what a sound is called, just say hi, zzz. I don't care, okay? This is just for you to critically listen, because that's how you learn to listen differently to how consumers listen. Then bridge, what's up there? All the parts are the same. It's just that bass line was introduced, okay? Can you hear that bass line? Cool. How many bars is the bridge? 41 minus 25. Why did I know it's 16? How did I know 41 minus 25? Because the next section is at 41 and this is at 25. So, cool. And then in the chorus, typically what you'll see in the chorus is that the kick drum comes in and some elements drop out, which is why it's actually called the drop, is because like a lot of elements drop out and leaves you with just the bare bones. Cool. Kick drum, and I would also add that little shaker on every 2. And that bass line is still there. Is the high synth there? No, high synth isn't there, vocal isn't there. That's it. Cool. So you'll actually blast through it quicker than you think, but this will teach you a deeper kind of listening that is really, really handy to have. Because now imagine after this, if I want to take the intro and the verse, you know, this song, I can just make a cut right there, copy, you know, or Command C, paste it in the outro. This is going to sound shit. I'm just showing you how music is made in blocks, but you can put the blocks together now. Obviously, they're different keys and stuff, so that's not exactly going to sound good. But you get the point. You can do edits, mashups, transitions, all sorts of stuff really easily once you get that down. Cool. So that's it. To wrap it up, download the 3 tracks you like, warp the 3 of them. using the method I just showed you, the easy method if it works, the longer method if something's not seeming right. Drop markers at the sections. Remember to do that first, and then do some critical listening. So note down what you hear in each section. If your 3 songs are in very different BPMs, you might notice that the first song, it says over here, 127 BPM. Then the second song is 118 BPM. So one trick I can show you over here, if you like, is you can actually click the BPM on the top left, right click, show automation, and this line will appear over here, okay? Why is it over here? Because this is the master channel, and this is the master tempo, so it belongs over here. So I can actually set it saying go 127 here, and then when you get to this song, go down to 18. How do I do that? Click to add a point, click to add another point, move it up or down, okay? There's also the minimum and maximum range over here. If it's too sensitive or not sensitive enough, you can edit those. And you can see I've just made those little transitions. So I'm hearing the song in its original BPM. Another song I really like, if you guys want to check that one out. And then, cool. So I literally did this homework 2 weeks ago, and I found it really helpful, even though I've been doing this for a while. One last thing I had before I hung up and gave it over to you was for my friend Amina. I wanted to, how I've shown you what warping is, but warping can be used to put songs on a grid, but can also be used for experimental purposes. If you have a field recording, and I remember one thing you said when I said, what do you want to do with audio? You said, I want to fuck with audio. I so feel that. I love doing that, okay? So with warping, everything's on a grid now, but I can as easily double click a transient, make it a warp marker, and then stretch it the fuck out, right? So that sound is not designed to be played stretched that much. Actually, you can't stretch even more. That's the extent of digital technology. Look at that segment BPM 999 because it's going like, what is going on? And then let's hear it. Okay, if I cut it there, and if I loop it, and if I add reverb and delay. Okay, very easy to get weird. And I definitely want all of you to be using Ableton to do what you want with it. I just wanted to slip in that a little bit to show you how we're just going to follow the rules first, but then once you know how the rules work, you also then know how to break them. Super cool. That's that. I hope this video was a little bit better than the class, especially that short method. And let me know how you guys go. If you have any dramas, looking forward to seeing or hearing screenshots or warped songs or whatever you come up with. Cheers, guys.